Yes, hello again. This is now tarot lesson number 108. And last time, it's about court cards. So last time I talked about the suits on their own. And I was going to do all of it today, but I think today we'll talk about kings, queens, knights and pages on their own and what they represent and what we do with them. And then next time I'll put the two together and talk about, let's say, the King of Cups rather than just a king. So I have two points to make first. So I wrote down some notes. M means masculine and F means feminine. So we can look at kings and knights as being masculine and queens and pages as being feminine. And one way to look at it is a knight grows up to be a king and a page grows up to be a queen. So the page can be a younger version of a queen. A knight can, in its own way, be a younger version of a king. So I'm saying masculine and feminine, and not that one is better or worse, but it's worth thinking about the difference between the masculine and the feminine, the different strengths and weaknesses of each of the two genders. So one thing I was told early on was the masculine goes out and makes things happen, whereas the feminine responds to circumstances. So if it's a king or a knight, you just go out and do stuff. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but it's the action and the activity and taking charge and going out and making it work. That's the kind of motivation of a king and a knight. Whereas a queen and a page, they'll look around first and see what's going on and what's possible and what's feasible and what worked in the past and what's going to work better in the future, or what changes can we make. So they take a look around first and then they take action. So it's not like just jumping into things like a king or a knight might do. But with a queen, you're looking at more circumspect behavior. Circumspect meaning looking around the periphery or the outskirts of the situation. And then once you've got an idea of the lay of the land, so to speak, then you take action. So which is better? It depends. I mean, if you're going into battle and the enemy attack and you've got to quickly defend yourself, you're probably better off with the masculine. Whereas, because you probably don't have time to analyze and assess and figure out what's the best thing to do. You just sort of have to act and take action. So whereas if you've got a project and you're going to begin a month from now, the masculine might want to start tomorrow and just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Whereas the feminine looks and figures out, okay, we need a plan. What's the plan going to be? And what do we need to include? And who needs to be involved? And how much is it going to cost? So they're more analytical maybe about the situation and what to do. So I'm saying you think about masculine and feminine and you incorporate that type of mentality or that type of behavior into the suit, the king, the queen, the knight, or the page, whatever it happens to be. So I'm giving you one or two ideas about masculine and feminine, but you can come up with your own version of masculine and feminine, the strengths and the weaknesses, what you see as the strengths and the weaknesses. The other thing is I wrote down 4 words. And so maybe what we do with court cards is we look at each card from the point of view of what is its position, because kings and queens are probably in a dominant position, whereas a reversed king can be somebody who isn't in a dominant position. Maybe they want to be, but either they can't be, or they're not allowed to be, or they're not capable of being in that high position of giving orders. So maybe we look at each card in terms of its position in an organization or to do with the question. So it may be, if somebody wants to know, am I going to solve this problem? And there's an upright king, yes, you are, because you're in a dominant position, you're on top. Or if the king is upside down, it's going to be difficult because you're not on top, because you're not dominant. So maybe you look at each card, whereas a page, for instance, is younger and inexperienced. So their position is to learn first. And then if they prove themselves, then maybe you can give them some authority or some power. But in the beginning, a page really ought not to have that much power because they don't know enough yet. So the position, the role that the person plays as well can be important as well as looking at a king. So kings are, what is the king? The king is meant to be in charge. They're meant to give orders. They're meant to run things. Same as a queen, but the queen runs things more kindly maybe or more sensitively than a king does, because the queen is feminine and responds to circumstances. So if there's something wrong, the king might just go in and give orders and okay, well, if you don't like it, that's too bad, you're going to do it anyway. Whereas the queen will say, I can see you don't like it, but if you think about it this way, then if you do it that, then it's all going to be better and everybody will benefit. So the queen can use reason and sensitivity, whereas the king is more likely to be difficult or bossy, for instance. So think about the position of the court card in the question and in the answer. What role are they playing? And if the card is upright, they're playing it well. If it's upside down, they're not playing it well, or they need to change or adapt or do things differently. Then BEHAV stands for behavior. So what you do is you look at a king, a queen, a knight, and a page, and you imagine what would be typical behavior of that individual or that type of person. So kings typically, let's say, are in control, they're bossy, they know what they're about, they've got authority, they've got power, they've got influence. The same for a queen, but in a different kind of a way. A knight behaves differently because knights are younger and maybe more interested in taking action and doing things. A king is seated on a throne, so maybe the king, part of the king, his behavior is he's going to sit and give orders. He's not the soldier out fighting in the trenches. He's a general back in headquarters giving orders and letting other people go off and get killed, for instance. And so what would be the behavior of a page? You can be enthusiastic because you're childlike, but you can also be inexperienced, so you're more likely to make mistakes as a page, especially a page reversed, than if you're, let's say, a queen. And the last word I wrote was habit. So what kind of habits are you looking at with the King of Cups? What kind of behavior is it? What kind of habits does the King of Cups have? So you think about the people that you know, as well as famous actors and actresses and so on, and look at their behavior. And so maybe you've got somebody, let's say it's a ceremony or an award show, and you've got the famous people up for the nominees coming into the building in the beginning and they're being interviewed. Some celebrities will take the time and answer the questions. Others get annoyed and don't want to have anything to do with the questioner, even though if you're a celebrity, it's the fans that made you that way. And so you probably ought to cooperate with the fans. And so there's something about, but if you don't cooperate, then you're not helping yourself. So you think about habits that people have or different kinds of behavior, and you relate different methods or different points of view to different cards. And because you know about the suits and you know at this point about kings, queens, knights and pages, you can begin to relate maybe a celebrity who loses their temper with a stupid question from an interviewer. People are always asking stupid questions, so you're not supposed to lose your temper. But so maybe you think about what type of court card would lose their temper if somebody asks them a question that's not very bright. And so you think about that, which means that, let's say you decide it's the Knight of Swords gets annoyed with the questioner, but the Knight of Swords reversed gets annoyed with the questioner, but the King of Swords reversed not only gets annoyed, but is really insulting. and cruel to the interviewer. It was just asking a question. So it's a difference between a king and a knight. So the knight is annoyed, but the king is annoyed and vengeful and wants to take it out on the innocent bystander. So maybe the next time you see a king of swords, you've got more to say about that particular card and what you can expect of somebody represented by the king of swords. Either you, the questioner, are going to be like that, or else it's somebody you meet and you're going to have to deal with hostility maybe on the part of somebody else. And you realize it's hostility is the word you're using because you connected a bad-tempered celebrity on the red carpet, taking it out on the questioner. Or the interviewer, rather. So we would normally do kings, queens, knights, and pages, but because in a chess match, the queen can move all over the place. She can go diagonally and horizontally, and is much more powerful than the king because the king can only move one square at a time. So with that in mind, let's begin with the queen and the page. So what have I got? The queen. And I wrote down 3 words, and I'm suggesting you do this as well. Think of 3 words to represent a queen, or that makes sense to you at the moment, because you can find a month from now you would do this exercise again and you come up with different words or different ideas. So it's not like this is it forever. It's this is it for the moment. So a queen, and I wrote down chief, because queens are, the chief is in charge. So queens are authoritative and they tell you what to do, and ideally you agree and you see the sense of what they're telling you. So in some way the queen is the chief. Then I wrote down preeminent, where it's like if you've got a group of different people, often one is the natural leader or the naturally in charge, or other people look to one individual for direction or instruction. And that can be the role of the queen, where you, whether you like it or not, where you have to make decisions for the group or for other people and be comfortable with it and be happy about it. And the third word I wrote down was container, because if you think about women get pregnant and they carry a child for several months, right? And it's a bit like unless you've got a container, then nothing happens. But it's interesting that the first word in the Bible is Bereshith, and the first letter of the first word is Beit, which is the archetype of all containers. And it's a bit like, yes, by all means have a solar system, but unless you've got a container, nothing's going to happen. It'll be energy all over the place and chaos. But because you've got a container or limits represented by the queen, then things can happen. And you've got a better chance of things working out. So a queen upside down can be you haven't got a proper container, or you haven't got boundaries, or you don't know what the boundaries are, or people take advantage of there being no border or no boundaries. The queen, next is the page. And I've got a page. Pages often represent children. So am I going to have a child? You get a page, yes you are, because pages are children. So I wrote down child. So think about children and babies if you've got them, or if you had them, or babies that you know, and think about the behavior of a child. They have a short attention span, maybe, or they get distracted by shiny objects, so they're easily distracted, maybe. Or if they're upset about something, you do something to get their attention, and so their mind shifts from the thing they're worried about to something more interesting or something different. So think about babies and children and what they're like and what you can do with them. Then I wrote down new, because a page can represent something that's new and inexperienced. So as I think I said last time, a man who's 60 beginning a new career as a coder that they've never done before is a page, because they're new and inexperienced when it comes to that particular activity. So it doesn't have to be somebody who is young. They can be inexperienced and new to a particular set of circumstances, a particular role. And the last word I wrote down was questions. Think about children, and they're always asking questions. You know, why this, why that? What's going on? What does this mean? And so on. So we can relate pages to the need to ask questions. Don't assume that you know what's going on. You're better with a page to think of questions and to look around and ask other people questions about what they think or what they would do or the best thing to do or what worked in the past or what didn't work in the past. And gather information first by asking questions, and maybe ask yourself questions as well. Can I handle this? Is it a good fit? Do I really want to do it? Is this what I would choose to do if I could? And then in the light of the answers that you get, then you take action. Third is the king. So here we've got a King of Pentacles. And I wrote down authority. So kings are supposed to be in charge. They've got authority. And if you look at the word authority, you drop the ITY at the end and you've got author. So kings are authors. Kings, they've got bits and pieces and they put them together in a way that ideally will work. And so that's why they've got authority, because they should have proved to people or to the world that they can handle it. So they've got authority. Maybe it's natural, or maybe they learned it. But either way, they are in charge. They ought to be in charge. They can handle being in charge. Whereas a king upside down, you can't handle it. It's beyond you. It's more than you can hold, or whatever. It depends on the question, but it's too much. Then I wrote down control. So a king ideally is in control and knows what they're doing. And so they can be trusted to make good decisions or to be in control. And so a king upside down can be the boss doesn't know what they're doing, or the head of the department. There's a thing about people are promoted one step beyond what they're capable of. So somebody who's a good teacher, for instance, in a high school, gets promotion to the head of the department. They were a great teacher, but they're a terrible head of department because it's different responsibilities and different duties. They prove they can be a teacher and handle a classroom and make good lesson plans and so on. But when it comes to being the head of a department, it's a whole different set of responsibilities. And maybe with a king reverse, they're not very good at it. And third, commanding, which is kind of authority and commanding as well. So they know what they're doing and they give good orders. And moving on to the knight. There's a knight. I put youthful because knights are younger than kings. And so with a knight, you're looking at either a youthful individual or a youthful approach to a problem. So maybe a king is more set in their ways, right? Because you've been around and you've done things and you've gained experience. So you can get tunnel vision maybe, where you know what to do and this is what you see and it's straight ahead. Whereas a knight, being youthful, is more likely to be to at least consider other approaches or other ways of doing things. They may end up realizing that the original way was the best way and we're going to do it again. But somehow being youthful, they're more interested or more able to examine or to try things that haven't been tried before, or to try something that they didn't think of. Then I got messenger, because that's what I was taught. Knights are messengers and they bring change. So a knight is upright, good messages and things going well. The knight upside down, the message won't get through, the message will be misunderstood, or it's a bad message in the first place. So don't listen to it. And the last word I wrote down is active, because somehow I know the king's sitting on a throne, so maybe that's an indication that they're stable or that they're fixed or that they're set in their ways, whereas all the knights are on horseback. And even though the Knight of Pentacles doesn't seem to be moving that much, nevertheless, a knight is a horse is a pack animal, and knights are sitting on horses, so it's not like They have to do everything by themselves. They've got transportation. And so they may not be strong enough to carry a heavy weight 20 miles, but a horse can. So they've got access to help that kings don't have. So that was something about kings, queens, knights, and pages. So I'm suggesting that you, off and on, think about a knight and a king and a queen and a page, and what sort of behavior or role or habits would somebody in that position have. And then you've got more to talk about if and when court cards come up in a reading. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in a few days with the two put together. Okay?